Welcome back, warriors of Manhwa Vortex. If you thought Part 1 left you on edge, Part 2 is here to turn up the fire. Today, we're diving even deeper into Hamel's journey, where secrets break open and the stakes are higher than ever. Let's get into it. Cayenne repeats his question, "What is that guy doing there?" Eugene stops his training and says that it's very clear what he's doing. Practicing the spear. He also calls him an idiot, and Seal pushes her brother to do something as that country kid just called him. A main family member, an idiot. Cayenne gets angry and demands an apology. Eugene instantly apologizes, leaving him quite silent. He says that it wasn't sincere at all. He needs to bow down with sincerity, then apologize. Eugene says that they must be the same age, so why should he bow down if they are friends? Cayenne asks, who would dare consider them friends? And even if they are both Lionhearts, they are not equals. Seal reminds him about the carriage, and Cayenne begins berating him and demands he clean the carriage he came with. As it probably stinks from all the farm animals he must have taken care of. Eugene just looks at this excuse of an insult and asks Nina if she's his personal servant. She confirms this and says that she should clean the carriage instead of him. Nina doesn't know what to do, and Cayenne notes that he told him to clean it specifically, so how dare he order his servant to do it? Is he really disrespecting the order of Cayenne Lionheart? Eugene introduces himself, and Seal does so as well. Cayenne says that there's no point in being nice to trash like him, and since he ignored a direct order, he has dishonored him. So a duel must take place. Eugene smirks and says that he should not throw that word around so easily, as it bears a heavy burden. He just wants to continue training. So why can't they leave? Cayenne asks if he's scared, and that's when his expression changes. He really must be scared, right? So, in that case, he should bow his head and apologize for what he's done. Eugene says that he's in no way scared and also doesn't want to duel or apologize. Cayenne says that he doesn't want to do anything. So is he just going to run away? His parents probably didn't teach him what honor truly is. That's when Eugene begins dropping his arm weights, and Cayenne asks what he's doing. Eugene notes that he wanted a duel, and that's what he will get, so he should throw the damn handkerchief already. Eugene continues to strip, and it seems that even the vest he was wearing was also heavy. Cayenne can only look at how many weights this guy had, thinking that they were only for show up until now. But now we can't back down, as he's the one who challenged him to a duel. So Seal will make fun of him for the rest of eternity. Challenged him to a duel. So Seal will make fun of him for the rest of eternity if he were to back down. And he also must punish him for tainting his honor. He throws the handkerchief in his direction and demands that the duel commence. Eugene finally takes off the final weight, and when the handkerchief falls to his face, he accepts. In that very second, Eugene strikes Cayenne instantly in the gut, ending the fight in just one blow. Seal rushes to the side of her brother, but backs away when she sees how much he's vomiting. She turns her attention to Eugene and says that he's a coward, and that was in no way an honorable duel. Eugene says that there was no cowardice there, as the duel started when the handkerchief was thrown. So it's his fault for letting his guard down. CL can't deny this, and instead says that he must have trained in mana, right? Eugene notes that the branch lines aren't allowed to train with mana until after the success ritual. Seal doesn't believe it and calls him a liar, as there is no way he's able to swing something so heavy without mana. And also, the attack that he performed was too fast, to the point where even if Cayenne were to be on full guard, he couldn't have been able to do anything. Eugene smirks and says that his eyes aren't just for show after all. She notes that his mouth is quite foul, and he says that he has already heard that one plenty. But it's also not like her brother got beaten without putting up a fight, as when his attack reached him, he instinctively dodged backwards to reduce the damage. That's nothing short of amazing, given that he doesn't have any real experience just yet. Eugene notes that this guy has potential, but it's not strong enough to be considered a descendant of Vermouth. Cayenne gets up and with heavy breath calls Eugene a coward, who says that they really are siblings, considering they say the exact same things. He makes his way towards him and notes that if he's an honor-bound descendant of the Lionheart family, he should humbly admit defeat after losing. Cayenne becomes embarrassed, and Eugene thinks that he should have held back a little. As this is the child of a patriarch, won't they do something to punish him? That's when a man rushes to see what's going on with a stern face. Eugene notices the lack of a lion on his chest, so he's probably just a knight hired by the family and pretty skilled at that. Cayenne calls him by his name, Hazar, and rushes to his side, noting that he lost to a country person like that guy. He challenged him to a fair duel and lost. Hazar looks at Eugene and introduces himself as the one in charge of instructing Cayenne. Eugene also introduces himself and says that he's from Geidel. Hazar notes that is where Jahar's family is, and Eugene confirms that Man is his father. Hazar demands to know what happened here, and Eugene says that Cayenne simply picked a fight with him and also insulted his father. Cayenne denies this, but Eugene says that he told him that he was not taught honor by his father and also called him a coward. All of these insults to him and also to his father. Weren't they enough reasons to accept the duel? Hazar thinks that all of these are valid reasons and takes Cayenne away, noting that they should get his injuries treated as soon as possible. While leaving, Seal waves him goodbye, and he does the same. A few days pass, and while having a very big meal, Nina offers him the information that he requested. Deacon, Hansen, and Jules are planned to arrive tomorrow at noon, while Gargas and Desire are planning on coming that evening through a warp gate. Eugene thinks that they are coming faster than expected, and the succession ritual will commence soon. He walks out of the dining hall and apologizes to Vermouth, as he's going to be messing with his descendants from now on. So he hopes he won't be upset about it. It's not like he wanted to become one of his descendants. It's just a damn reincarnation after all. Cayenne gets interrogated by his mother, the second wife of the main family, Anasilla, and asks if her son really lost against someone from a branch family. Hazar confirms it, and she demands Keon come next to her. She strikes him with the fan in the same place he got hit and asks if he really lost in a single strike. Cayenne says that she's hurting him, and she demands that he stop complaining, as well as an answer from Hazar. Did that kid really not train with mana? He confirms this and says that Eugene doesn't possess an ounce of mana in his body. She asks Seal how her brother lost, and she explains that just as the duel started, Eugene hit him with the spear, and Cayenne tried to retreat. But it was too late. The mother laments the duel being lost in a single blow, and Cayenne tries to tell her something, but that's when she slaps him with all of her might and screams, demanding to know how he lost a duel in front of those lowly beasts into a child that lacks mana. Soon his father will be back for the ritual. So how's she going to face him then, huh? Cayenne begins shaking and apologizes. The mother says that she would like nothing more than to cut Hazar's head off, but her husband favors him. He must train Cayenne once more so that he may never disgrace her like this again. With that, they leave, and Hazar seems to be more of a parent to Cayenne than his mother ever will be. She eventually calms down and asks Seal to befriend Eugene, or whatever his name was. Seal asks why, and her mother explains that right now, he's strong enough to win against her brother, so that's why. She thinks that if it were her way, she would kill that little cheat, but then she would become the first suspect. And if a feud were ever to break out within the family, the guardians of the familial law would come, and she must avoid that at all costs. The mother says that she just needs to become friends with him, and Seal says that she will do it, as she also has an interest in him, so she will befriend him. Her mother smiles, an evil expression running across her face. The next day, 3 boys from the branch families arrived at the family residence: Hansen, Deacon, and Jules. While Eugene is training, Nina comes up to him with his clothes and notes that everyone has arrived. Eugene says that he thought they would have come at night, but they are here earlier than expected. Nina notes that the patriarch has also arrived, and he must quickly go. But he also needs to change his clothes. Eugene notes that he would be late if he were to do that, so he will just go meet him like this. They all wait at the front gate for the patriarch, and Eugene looks around. He spots the second wife, Anasilla, and the person in front of her is the first wife, Theonis. And that depressed-looking guy is the main family's eldest son, and first in line for succession, Iod Lionheart. The patriarch finally arrives. Gillard Lionheart, along with the younger brother, Keon. Gillard immediately goes to Iod and asks if his skills have improved. Iod tries to avoid eye contact and says that he's trying his best, as usual. This doesn't please Gillard, and he moves on to Cayenne and Seal, noting how much they have grown since he was gone. He also congratulates one of his brothers, Guilford, for having a son, and apologizes for not being there to see such a blessing. Guilford says that there's no need for such things, and Galar moves his attention to the children of the branch families. He notes that they should have a meal together, and there they will discuss the blood succession ritual. They sit at the dining table, and Eugene spots the other two people who arrived, Gargus and Desire. He thinks that these were the people who came through the warp with the patriarch to attend the ritual. So are they perhaps of higher prestige in the Lionheart branch families? He also notices a man who is clearly not a Lionheart and thinks that only the patriarch and the ritual attendees are supposed to come to this meal. Seal also looks at him curiously and asks her father who that person is. He says that he was planning on introducing him at a later date, but they should do it now. The person gets up and introduces himself as Ian from the Red Magic Tower in Aroth. Everyone is surprised, and Iod notes that he's the master of the Magic Tower, causing Eugene to spit out his drink. They all look at him, and Robarian asks if he's fine, to which he replies yes. Eugene thinks that if he's the Red Magic Tower master, he's Senya's direct disciple, or rather the disciple of Senya's disciple's disciple. 300 years ago, Senya attained the position of Green Magic Tower Master at the youngest age in Arath's history. Not only had she improved all the spellbooks in Arath, but she had helped countless disciples of other magic towers, and even provided advice to the other tower masters. To this very day, the Green Magic Tower Master and Robarians still consider her their great master. But the most surprising thing is that he would meet someone related to his old companion so early. Galar begins talking to Eugene and notes that he heard about him from Theonis, and that his son dishonored him and his parents. Cayenne looks down in shame, and Eugene says that he did, but holds no real grudge against him. Giard asks if it's because he won the duel, and Eugene notes that it would have been if he were to lose, because if he were unable to protect his honor, then it is his duty to at least accept this as fact. Giard smiles and notes that he's better than his son. He starts speaking with Cayenne and notes that he's not ashamed of his defeat, but it does shame him that he's embarrassed by losing and how much he worries about how he's going to feel about it. It was a duel that started because of his insults in the first place, but he still hasn't apologized, even after losing. Cayenne tries to say something, but Giard interrupts him and says that he is a Lionheart, first and foremost, and that the Great Vermouth is his ancestor. If he really is someone from his bloodline, he should act like it and respect not only his own honor, but also the honor of others. Cayenne looks at him and with a blush on his face apologizes. Eugene notices how much he's forcing himself right now, but it doesn't really matter. Giard says that his father must be Jihad, and he apologizes as he doesn't know him directly. Eugene says that it's only natural that he doesn't, as his family lives in a very rural area for someone like him to know about them. Giard asks if his father taught him those moves, and he instructed him on the basics. But after that, he trained on his own. Desire is surprised he trained by himself, and Gargas is even more surprised that he managed to beat Cayenne now. Giard notes that this succession ritual will be an interesting one this time, and the food comes. After it is plated and served, Giard says that the food might not be up to their expectations, but they must be hungry, so they should start eating. After the meal, Giard notes that the reason he decided to hold this meal was because he wanted to share some details about the upcoming ritual. They all eagerly wait for him to talk, and he says that although he's the patriarch, and it's quite embarrassing to admit it, the blood succession ritual is just too discriminatory. Naturally, it is a tradition of the main family, and children of branch families are not allowed to train with real weapons or mana until after the ritual is over. If the ritual occurred under these unfair conditions, there would be no way a child from a branch family would beat a child from the main family. In this case, 3 of his children will be entering. However, he believes that it's fair that he not only check on his own children, but also the potential of all the children who hold the Lionheart name. The ritual exists to prove to oneself that one is a descendant of the Great Vermouth, so it doesn't matter if that person is from the main family or otherwise. Eugene smirks and notes that this descendant is much kinder than Vermouth himself. Giard notes that, because of all of this, he asked for help with this ritual, and that's why Robarian is here. He gets up, and with a flick of his fingers, the table transforms into a map of a labyrinth. He says that the ritual will take place in here, and everyone will enter from a different entrance. And all they have to do is defeat the boss monster in the middle of said labyrinth. They will also have to avoid traps and defeat any monsters they come across. Naturally, everything that occurs inside of it is just an illusion made with magic. So it's basically just a big mind trick. But they shouldn't falter, as it will feel just like reality. Eugene thinks that he's not only summoning magic, but also using advanced illusionary magic. No wonder he's earned the position of Tower Master. Reborn continues and says that if one of them manages to defeat the boss monster, the ritual will come to a close, and everyone will be assigned a point value based on how well they did. One of them asks if it's fine if they are unable to escape the labyrinth, and he confirms this. And if they are too scared, they can just stay at the entrance of the labyrinth. Eugene asks what they get for defeating the labyrinth boss, and Gilar smirks. He will allow them to take anything they want from the main family's underground treasury. Eugene is excited now and finds this amazing. While walking away, he thinks that it still should be easy, and his only real problem is what to choose from the main family treasury. That's when he spots Desire and Gargas, who seem to have been waiting for him. Gargas asks if he really won against Cayenne, and Eugene confirms this. And also, if they are done questioning him on useless stuff, he will be leaving. Gargas tries to stop him, but he just shrugs, not knowing what to say. Eugene makes his way to the training grounds and continues to practice, but he gets interrupted by Desire and Gargas, who are waiting for him to finish, with Desire holding spears in each of her hands. Eugene wonders why they haven't just gone to sleep yet, and that's when Gargas walks in front and after a short second, rips out his shirt. He begins breathing heavily and pumps all of his muscles, making them glisten. Eugene wonders what just happened, and Gargas notes that he can touch it, but Eugene rejects this instantly. Gargas notes that his family has a secret muscle growth potion that accelerates muscle growth depending on training, while not accumulating mana within the body. And naturally, there aren't many side effects to this. Is he perhaps interested? Eugene asks if he's here to sell him the potion, and Desire says that there is one major side effect. If you were to consume it, he would start growing a beard, regardless of gender. She notes that she heard that he used a spear in his battle with Cayenne. So why is he using a sword now? Eugene notes that he uses both swords and spears, making Desire think that he's just saying that he's good with most weapons. She throws him a spear, which he catches, and she says that her specialty is the spear, so they should fight. Eugene thinks that it would be easier to deal with her than that potion salesman, and he's also quite interested in how strong the high-ranking kids of the branch families really are. So he accepts the duel. They get into position, and Eugene asks what Gargas is still doing here. He notes that he's the referee, as even though this is just a simple spar, it still must be fair. Eugene thinks that he's acting the same way as Moron. Is he not secretly a descendant of that meathead? He notes that they will begin when he says start, and Desire urges him to do it already. She thinks about Eugene and notes that his ability to use both swords and spears must be a bad joke. She will be the one to show him that the spear can't be mastered that easily. Gargas gives them the go-ahead, and she rushes in, thinking that the one who strikes first wins. But she suddenly stops, as Eugene is emanating a dangerous aura, and it's clear that he has no openings. He asks why she stopped so suddenly, and this ticks her off, making her charge in once again. She strikes, but Eugene counters her attack. They continue to do this, and he thinks that considering the lack of mana in her body, she's actually pretty good, and she's still quite young, so the possibilities are infinite. But in her current state, she's no match for the likes of him. He continues to block and notes that she didn't hit him, even once. She demands he shut up and thinks that if he thinks that he can block all of her attacks without dodging, it will cost him dearly. She charges in again, and they continue trading blows until she dashes behind him and prepares a mighty strike, thinking that he will not be able to block this one. Eugene raises his foot and catches the spear with it, making Desire desperately try to reclaim it. But it's already over, and this duel has already ended. Eugene Lionheart has won. Later that night, Gargas wakes Eugene up by noting that they should work together. Eugene wonders where he lives to wake a person up like that, and Gargas says that he just wanted to hear his response. Eugene notes that he heard the details of the ritual earlier, right? They are all coming from different entrances, so how are they supposed to do that in the first place? Gargus notes that they will end up at the same place, the center of the labyrinth where the boss monster sits. The twins from the main family will also most likely work together. Eugene asks if what he's suggesting is that they defeat the boss monster together, and he confirms this. Eugene says that he can probably do it by himself anyway, and Desire, who was leaning against the wall all of this time, says that he's just full of himself and foolish. But still, she can't deny his strength. And if he were to help them, they would surely defeat the boss monster with no real difficulty. He asks why they are so desperate to defeat that thing. And she says that in this ritual where both main and branch families participate, someone from a branch family hasn't even once. However, they have that possibility now as they can work together. Doesn't he want to show defeat to the main family at least once? Anacilla looks out of the window and thinks that Reborn, who also came here to help with the ritual, is most likely scouting Iode as his disciple. Since he was young, he always liked reading more than being active, and because of this, he has shown aptitude for the magic arts. If Iode were to become Reborn's disciple, he would have to leave the family residence. In that time, Cayenne and Seal will grow up a lot, so Iode will basically give up on being the successor. The only real problem she has right now is with the ritual, as her children will forever be called the children of a concubine. They were only able to establish their position because she didn't let this bring them down. But to think her son would lose to a child from a mere branch family. She would rather have Eugene clear the labyrinth the fastest, as if he were strong enough to do this. The main family would be put to shame, and Cayenne's defeat would be covered up. 4 days later, the succession ritual is about to commence, and everyone is gathered up. Reborn prepares some magic and gives each of them a blue orb. He notes that first they will create their weapons, so everyone should try to mold the light into the weapon they want. They all begin doing so, with Seal being the first to succeed in creating a rapier. She begins testing it out and asks what would happen if it were to break. Reborn laughs and says that both the sword and labyrinth are created with magic, so the sword she has right now can't break in the labyrinth. She asks if she can make something like an animal instead of a sword, and Reborn notes that she could make a doll, or golem, but never a living being. Iode asks why they can't, and he notes that it's considered taboo magic. Giving birth to another life is something beautiful, and it is a power that only living beings have. Iode is quite surprised at his response, and Gargus succeeds in creating his weapon, a giant great sword. He notes that it's like the great sword he uses back at home, but more real and less wooden. Desire wonders who asked and finally manages to make her weapon, a spear. Everyone also finishes creating theirs, with most being swords. Eugene, however, also creates a shield, and that's when Seal asks what he will do if they meet in the labyrinth. Will she perhaps fight her? Eugene asks the patriarch if fighting is allowed, and he confirms this, as it was part of the ritual in the first place. However, good judgment and cooperation are also very important, as they are a family that all bear the same name. Seal thinks of the world's family and begins smiling at Eugene, who is extremely creeped out by this. With this done, Reborn also gives them some necklaces and notes that they are connected to their minds. If they were to become distressed in the labyrinth, the necklace will react. And when that happens, he will consider it a dangerous situation and will intervene. Eugene notes that it's just a safety tool to prevent accidents. Reborn also says that if they ever want to get out, they can just tap on the necklace and ask for help. With that, everything is prepared, and they can now enter the labyrinth. They will enter from the same entrance but will be split up the moment they walk inside. They all head towards the gate, and Seal wishes Eugene good luck, who reluctantly does the same. He walks through and finds himself in a corridor. He thinks that he went through something like this in his past life, and that the ceiling is blocked off. He takes a swing of his sword and notes that this space is pretty tight, so it will be difficult to use a weapon with a long reach, and that's precisely why he chose a sword and shield, as this basic combination can't be beat in most situations. He doubts that this challenge will be of any difficulty, however, as it was just made for kids. With that, he takes his first step into the labyrinth. A few small slimes attack a participant, and he begins flailing the sword around with no rhyme or reason. After he gets stuck to the ground, he desperately asks for help, and Reborn appears, teleporting both of them out of the dungeon. An hour after the succession ritual began, 3 had already failed. Giyar looks at them with a certain disappointment in his eyes and notes that they should go rest. He sits down with Reborn, and they watch how everyone is doing, specifically Gargus, who swings his giant greatsword around, and it often gets stuck. But because of his great strength, he pushes through and still manages to do heavy damage. Giyar notes that his movements are a tad awkward, but he's managing just fine, as he's not having any difficulty with the monsters he's facing. He looks at Desire, who begins fighting some slimes, and when she finally strikes one, he notes that bladed weapons don't do much against slimes, so she needs to find an opportunity and escape. Giyar thinks that she's quick and intuitive, also prioritizing getting out of the labyrinth more than facing monsters. He looks at Cayenne, who spots some traps, and thinks that his mother already got him and Seal some maps for several labyrinths before the ritual took place. So they studied them, and also the types of traps that were most likely to be put in place. He picks up a pebble and throws it in front, causing a lot of arrows to come out of the wall. Giyar notes that he's careful, but uses this to evade traps, which is not bad at all. He looks at Seal, who is now fighting a goblin. The goblin attacks, but she dodges swiftly and strikes when she has the chance. She begins making her way to the middle again, but finds herself at a dead end, and notes that she will just go back to the forked path from earlier. Giyar notes that she's flexible and sensible with her thinking, but she's just as childish. He moves on to Iode, who is confronted by a goblin, but instead of being scared, he's amazed at what magic can do. The goblin finally attacks, and after a few blocks, he manages to cut him, still amazed at what magic can really become. Reborn looks closer and notes that Iode seems quite interested in magic. Giyar says that he's loved magic ever since he was a child, and he used to be taught by a mage from the capital they invited. But he hasn't really tried to learn much since then. Reborn asks why that is, and Giyar notes that he gave up because of this harsh reality, as he has decided to become the patriarch because of his mother's wishes. And magic proves to be no advantage when competing for success. Reborn notes that magic is a difficult journey in spite of its countless possibilities. And Giyar says that he wishes he would actually take that journey. If he still has a passion for the magic arts, he won't be able to refuse a position as the disciple of the Red Magic Tower Master. Reborn says that he can't give him a straight answer just yet, but he will take him along because he knows him. However, if he's not fit to be his disciple, he can't take him. Giyar agrees, as he had no intention to force that upon him and just wanted to bet on Iode's dreams. That, and Iode respects Senya the Wise, more than Vermouth, his own ancestor. Reborn notes that he was the same, as he much preferred Senya's stories to Vermouth's adventures. Senya always came up with amazing solutions when her comrades were in danger. Giyar notes that he also read that story when he was a child, and truthfully neither Vermouth nor Senya were his favorites. Reborn asks who it is, but before Giyar could answer, his attention was grabbed by what Eugene was doing, fighting a gigantic troll. The troll tries to bash Eugene into the ground, but he blocks with his shield, allowing him to strike at multiple points. They both look at this display with surprise, and Giyar finds it nothing short of amazing. He takes down the troll, and Giyar notes that this is Eugene Lionheart. The troll explodes into golden bits, and Giyar notes that he's quite amazing for a 13-year-old, who he doubts has fought a real troll before. He wasn't even scared, and he was also able to take the troll down cleanly and confidently. Reborn notes that the trolls weren't put in place for the kids to fight, but more like traps they had to avoid, so he's just as surprised. Giyar notes that he's still young, but isn't his talent just exceptional? Reborn says that he already knows that they call these kinds of kids geniuses. Gargus also begins fighting a troll, but finds beaten up, and most likely on his last legs. But he summons the strength to charge in, and with a swift dodge manages to cut the troll, giving him the opportunity to end the fight. After, he breathes heavily and roars like a beast before the troll disappears, and he falls down. He thinks that he can't believe it managed to pierce through the muscles he's so proud of and break his ribs. Trolls are truly strong. He also got hit by all sorts of traps before he fought the troll, And since he's been hurt this much, he doubts the other kids are less injured than him. Without any strength remaining, he falls down. Cayenne also finds himself near a troll and thinks that this is in no way a monster they are supposed to take down. He distracts it with a rock and finds the opportunity to run away before it can notice anything. That's when Seal finds him and says that they started at entirely different points, but still managed to meet. Cayenne says that it just shows how closer to the center they are. But this is great, as now she can follow him and won't lose her way. She agrees, and Cayenne thinks that since he was humiliated in front of his sister by that bastard, he must take this chance to recover his damaged reputation. And just when you think you've seen it all, the real storm begins. That's where we'll pick up in part 3. Don't miss it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments so you're ready for the next chapter of this wild ride.